Thank you. And just to warn everyone, at 5 to 3, you'll see me dashing out. It's not that I've got intestinal issues, it's simply I've got plain issues. So I'm very happy to be here. And I'd like to tie into something that Dr. Lowe said at the beginning of the last session, and that is think global. I actually went through the document in a word search. I didn't see the word international and global enough. Obviously, clinical trial data sharing today is a global. So that's very important, I think, to keep in mind what can be done to facilitate international data sharing. So I have three models I'll share with you. The first is the International Cancer Genome Consortium, known as ICGC, where this slide has to be updated. There are now 72 projects across the different regions of the world that you see sharing data. Again, it's in a controlled access data. All of these platforms or whatever that you'll see have open for aggregate, and I'm always talking about controlled access data sets, but with minimal requirements to facilitate and optimize the sharing of data across the different cancers. So how was this done? Well, different countries decided through their ministries of health that this was an important initiative, both scientifically speaking, and I mean from the science part, but also from the policy part. And so in order to become a member, even if you had the money as a country to participate, you had to agree in advance to, in your signing and putting your funds forward, to the policies and guidelines that were prepared in a prospective fashion for ICGC. They included core bioethics elements for both prospective and retrospective use of data sets and tumor samples. And most importantly, for the controlled access part, they created a data access compliance office situated in my center as a sort of a third party or independent broker or whatever the current language is that would vet the applications, not the scientific part, but the authentication, the ethics review, the security plan, and so on prior to granting access to the researchers from all over the world. So you can have a better idea here that there's obviously the policy making committee is the ethics EPC, Ethics and Policy Committee. It's joined together with the International Data Access Committee that handles data access policy issues. And then the DACO, the Data Access Compliance Office, works with both of them to have continuing revisiting of the policies and procedures in case the issues come up as the ICGC moves forward. So this is a very interesting and successful model. And as someone mentioned this morning, everyone that is granted access through the Controlled Access Office signs data access agreements. They're all modeled, they're generic, they're equitable, and they're on the website, so they're transparent. Another model which was referred to, you heard about Yoda this morning, but there is the what I call the Transparency Initiative. I'm sure it's changed its name, but this is the one where different international pharma, following move by the EMA, EMEA as it then was in Europe, to start putting more and more pharma, in quotes, and approvals data and so on, and from trials published or unpublished into the public domain, actually, in a way, in quotation marks, forced companies to start moving in this direction with, as you know, an independent review panel. Obviously, anyone who applies to, and I'll put the next one on, to the website itself has to have a statistical plan, has to have a protocol, has to have various other respond to various other scientific questions before it comes to the independent review panel. And as a matter of disclosure, I want to tell you I'm on the independent review panel. There's an epi person, a stats person, a patient advocate person, there's a social science, humanities person like myself, and so on. And we then go through the applications completely independent from, we never hear from any of the companies that you see mentioned there, who are all members now of this transparency initiative. So that's another model. And again, what mirrors it with the ICGC model then is, of course, this vetting process. It's vetting light, if I can call it that. We don't go the independent review panel does not go into depth in the science. We do receive the synopses of the science, the protocol, and so on, who it will be shared with, conflicts of interest, and all of the rest. It's quite an interesting experience. And the third and nascent international global effort is this Global Alliance for Genomics and Health. The Global Alliance then wants to take what has been done in genomic data with the HAPMAP, the 1000 Genomes projects, the DBGAP, the EGA in the UK, and take this genomic model of data sharing, which has existed since the Bermuda Principles of 1996, and now start combining it with clinical data. So we're not down to personalized medicine yet. What we're looking for is the ability in the cloud, which is a problem, by the way, and during question period, you can ask me why it's a problem, to combine data, clinical with genomic data to look for patterns. So we're sort of going from a meta level to a stratification, subpopulation by disease, by region, and so on, in order to enable us to get to the refined clinical trials and matching patients to therapy. Now, the Global Alliance currently has 170 partners in 25 countries and is still sort of in the formation stage, and I chair the regulatory ethics and working group of the Alliance. There's a data group and a security group as well. So what's interesting about the Global Alliance is that, oops, well, I think we changed it, but it's not, well, okay. So they're actually focusing on all of these different tools that they're building. They're not building a metadata set or a centralized portal in contrast to the ICGC or the Transparency Initiative, but rather a distributed model, a federated model where depending on the scientific question of interest, you can then by using these tools and agreeing to the principles, which I'll get to in 1 minute, and agreeing to the International Data Sharing Code of Conduct for clinical and genomic data, you can actually move forward. So I'll only concentrate on the last point. This International Code of Conduct, which is in version number 6 right now, supported by the Rare Disease Consortium, H3 Africa, ICGC, BioShare, and different other international consortia, is using the tools of P3G's interoperability clearinghouse to build this code of conduct. And the unique thing about this code of conduct is that in contrast to, but yet complementary to traditional codes of conduct, which are a mixture of ethics and professional deontology, the Global Alliance Regulatory and Ethics Working Group, and Sharon is a member of this, have decided to take an actionable approach and complement bioethics codes, be they UNESCO or be they professional codes, WHO, with a human rights approach. So we're looking at the combination of the right to benefit from the progress of science and its applications, the right to be recognized for one's contribution to invention or data or whatever, or operas and books and the rest, so the right to be recognized for contribution, and the right to scientific freedom. These 3 human rights are found not only in the Universal Declaration of 1948, but also in the International Covenant of 1996. And because it's a covenant signed and ratified by 166 countries, this means that those countries around the world truly, universally, have to respect those human rights. And so, in particular, the right to privacy, anti-discrimination, and procedural fairness, this code of conduct will allow, in the long run, individuals, communities, populations to then claim against or with their governments on the actual realization or implementation of those 3 rights in view of the goals of the Global Alliance. So I'll stop there.
Thank you, Dr. Bourne.